Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and today we're on to part 2 of our series, In Search of the Perfect Light. Continuous lighting, to be precise, for video and film, which, of course, on the one hand is a fool's errand insofar as, there is no such thing as perfect. But with this said, on the other, perfection or not, the ambition is reasonable. Find an artificial light source that is better, faster, and or cheaper than what you currently have. Does something your current setup can't that you actually need, and represents a better set of trade-offs, again, for you, or in this case, me, than whatever else is out there. A piece of kit that just does the business day in, day out, making your video and filmmaking life easier instead of harder, sweeter instead of saltier. So let's talk about Falcon Eyes BL-10 TD, a bicolor continuous LED monolight. But before I do something different than what I usually do, I just wanted to give you a heads up that on Tuesday, January 22nd, from 1 to 3 p.m., I'll be giving a talk at B&H Photo's event space in New York City, titled Origin Stories: How Personal History Powers Your Unique Photographic Voice. I think this is going to be great fun, and what I'll do is put a link down in the show notes below where you can register either to attend in person or come on to the live stream. But okay, back to the Falcon Eyes and the bottom line. I swapped out my current standard, the Aputure C120t, for tungsten, for the BL10 TD, set the Falcon Eyes to 5600 Kelvin because I could with a simple tap on the touchscreen, and because 5600K is a better match for the mix of light presented here in the Batcave. Dialed in the GH5's color temperature to match, and then used the Falcon Eyes unit day in, day out for weeks on end. It worked flawlessly, seamlessly integrating into my current setup with no noticeable change in the quality of light itself. Although that's not what I'm using today. Hold that thought. And of course, it's a bit more complicated than that, so let me put it differently, more completely. 1. Yes, absolutely, the $533 BL10 TD is worth considering as an alternative to my current favorite, the $645 Aputure COB120, as well as the newer $745 version too. But 2, with this said, I still prefer the Aputure for what we do and how we do it. Hold that thought, though as always your mileage may vary, and that's fine. And 3, with that said, as I dug more deeply into the Falcon Eyes, the more compelling the little $250 Genere Monobright bicolor 750 LED I reviewed last month became. I think the Genere is actually the BL10 TD's real competition, and that becomes a bit of a tough one. Again, different strokes for different folks. All of these lights can get the job done well for their intended use. But let's get into the details, starting with a comparison of what I originally thought was the BL10 TD's primary competitor, the Aputure COB120 original version. First, the BL10 TD's pros versus the Aputure. A, it offers bicolor functionality, variable color temperature control, which is incredibly useful for mixed lighting scenarios like a hotel lobby or the Batcave, something that the Aputure does not. Though, of course, gels will do the trick and not compromise the amount of light available. But I don't like futzing with gels. B, the BL10 TD offers a removable lithium-ion battery in the head itself that the Aputure doesn't. Good for about an hour, full charge, full power. This is great. It's significantly lighter and smaller than a Cine-style battery. There's less futzing, but then again, I don't see us using the battery for what we do, as none of these lights, as I've mentioned before, is bright enough to overcome daylight on set, away from mains power or not. And we've never actually shot in the dark. Indoors, finding an outlet has never been an issue for us. See, like the Aputure, the BL10 TD has an integrated Bowens mount, which is terrific for modifying light. And to its credit, the mount actually locks in a softbox to the unit even more reassuringly than the one on the Aputure, which was already fine. All in a package roughly the same size. At $533 versus the original 120's $645 and version 2's $745 price tag, you could say simply that the BL10 TD is a bargain and leave it at that. But I won't, because I think it's more appropriate to recognize that the BL10 TD is a reasonable set of trade-offs for some of us at the price, complicated by the existence of the little Genere 750. First, hear what the Aputure 120T gives you, or D, that the Falcon Eyes doesn't. A, more light, somewhere between 1 and 3 stops, depending on color temperature, which I find fascinating, probably just because I'm fairly ignorant of this kind of stuff. B, a wireless remote, which comes in quite handy, especially when you're doing this kind of thing. C, superior build quality, though the Falcon Eyes will be perfectly adequate for many of us. Hold that thought. D, a separate control unit with integrated V or gold mount plate, which in turn is connected to the head by robust cabling, long enough cabling, allowing much easier readability and control when you're mounting the light high, and the ability to mount a stonkin' big Cine-style battery for hours of operation with a low center of gravity, making the prospect of tipping over, even without a sandbag, much less likely. E, superior cabling and superior cable connections. The BL10TD's cord connecting the head to the power brick isn't long enough to allow the brick to rest on the ground at normal height, meaning you've got the weight of the brick pulling on the cable unless you tape it or Velcro it, which is not a big deal, but one more step with which I'd personally rather not deal in the heat of a shoot. F, a yoke, which I much prefer to, say, a double ball joint, though I understand that in some cases a yoke can be weight and space overhead you either don't need or don't want, especially in tight situations. G, more pleasing industrial design, a personal thing I recognize, but day in, day out, not to be underestimated. And finally, H, superior noise suppression, above 25% power. To go any higher, the BL10TD requires you to hit a separate switch for a fan, which is much noisier than the Aputures. Take a listen. The lights set 1 meter from a seamless white paper backdrop. The camera with its onboard mics, an additional meter behind the lights themselves, set at 0 dB. This is not inconsequential. I usually use maximum lighting power to drive my ISO as low as possible, though as I've noted before, something like Isotope's RX software, I just upgraded it to 7 Advanced. Handles this really well. Still, as always, the less I have to do in post other than uncover the story, the happier I am. But as I've also said now multiple times already, the eye-opening comparison is to the 1/2 the price Genere Monobright 750 bicolor LED I reviewed in part 1. Because while the BL10TD has the removable lithium-ion battery that the Aputure and the Genere do not, and is quieter than the Genere below 25% power because the Genere's fan is always going, The Gen-A is A, smaller, lighter, and brighter by a third of a stop at 5600K, a bit more at 3200K. B, properly configured with longer cables and a locking connector to the head. C, more buttoned up. Insofar as a reduction in power to 25% on the Gen-A really does reduce light output by 2 stops, as measured by the GH5, compared to more like 1 stop, 1 1/3 stops on the BL10 TD. I forget what number I'm up to now, but available with an infrared remote controller. And oh yeah, it's $300 cheaper. Now, I don't mean to be flippant about this, and I think the BL10 TD is fit for purpose for a number of us, especially if you want a relatively light and small, yet usably powerful, at least indoors or at night, battery-powered monolight style continuous LED fixture. But $300 is a lot of money for a lot of people. There are a number of things I simply don't know about the BL10 TD that are important. But rather than holding that thought, let's get into it straight away, beginning with the quality and spread of the light. Now, CRI is less in favor these days, supplanted by TLCI as the preferred measure for color fidelity. But there's more complexity to be discussed. We'll hold that for another conversation another time. I didn't have a Falcon Eyes C120t colorimeter in-house to confirm how they performed in the real world, so I can't tell you precisely how any of them perform. But if you forget about the specs for a moment, what I can tell you is that unlike earlier generation LED panels, which I've used, I did not notice a green or purple tint from any of them. Yay. Nor did I notice a significant difference in beam angle or light fall off. Although I'll be the first to admit that my very modest test probably didn't capture those differences well at all. Take a look. I placed the lights 2 meters from a white backdrop without reflectors. I metered through a G9 to gray, desaturated in post along with a drop in luma to accentuate differences. Yeah, pointless. Either the specs don't reflect real-world differences, or I need a new test. I'll have to think about that. Maybe I'll have to think a lot about that, because then I went down a rabbit hole. I saw variability across lights. I saw variability within lights as I changed color temperature, variability in luminance and tint, variability across multiple passes, and I'm showing you just a couple of those passes. I remembered Adam Wilt's Centimeter 2 had some neat tricks, even if an iPhone 10 isn't a Falcon Eyes C700. So I pulled that up and tried again. For now, let's just say some of this may be on me, but I think some of this is on the gear too. All I wanted to see was the same exposure and the same white balance across scenarios and multiple passes, which in turn raises the question, if a tree falls in the forest, that's the wrong question. If I don't see the measured differences, if I'm not looking for them, do they matter? Actually, yeah, well, maybe they do, but maybe not. But what I'm really thinking is, wouldn't someone else be better suited to do these kinds of tests? Yes. I'm frustrated. I'm picking up where I left off. What I also cannot tell you is how long the Falcon Eyes, or Gen-A for that matter, will last. I can't tell you whether or not their service is good. I didn't look at their warranties. I think knowing these things is especially important with lighting, as I've had the experience of seeing a much more expensive, well-designed, and generally highly regarded unit from a well-known name brand just die not long after I put it through its paces, with no follow-up from the manufacturer. And the little shield covering the wiring to the single LED chip on the Falcon Eyes did pop off. Easy to fix by just press fitting it back on, but still, for a $500 fixture, which leaves us where exactly as we come to the end of part 2. Well, for 3 blind men and an elephant, it's simple. I haven't yet found an alternative to the Aputure for which I'm willing to part with my own hard cash. I like the consistency of their products, the light quality, the output, reliability, industrial design, quietness, wireless remote, value for money. And as I've said a number of times, it's people, which the older I get, the more important it becomes. I know what I'm getting, and I like it. Although I do wish their lights could be smaller, lighter, and less expensive, because in addition to considering a major lighting upgrade to our studio, a floor below the Batcave here, I'd like to find a better solution, especially for lighting our on-location setups. Backpackable without back-breaking or breaking the bank. Although I may just suck it up and bring our 2 Aputure LS1/2Ws with 4 light stands, 2 arms, and a couple of knuckles and scrims. Which sounds like too much. But maybe you guys have some suggestions, and I am all ears. Maybe an even more powerful light, bicolor, strong enough to really blow through a single, double diffused softbox big enough, at least 48 inches, to flatter the people in a 2-shot. A fixture that Aputure doesn't offer yet, though maybe they come close with the 300D daylight and $1,100 light I've yet to try. The thing of it is, as these prices creep into 4 figures, maybe I want something with build quality, industrial design I know will do the business for at least 10 years, and I don't have to think about it. I knew my Arri SoftBank 4 kit hot lights would, but I don't know about any of these LEDs. There are other lights out there I have yet to try, especially Broncolor's F160 and a couple of panels like the Microcolor, though I already know, having gone hands-on with them if not using them in anger. They have build quality, industrial design, superior to the Aputure, but higher prices too. And I don't know how long they'll last either. Finally, for now, there's the Anthem one I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm using it right now, bouncing it off a wall, and I've finally gotten rid of the glare in the background. But hold that thought for part 3. As for you, well, if you want bicolor lighting in a compact package with a wide range of modifiers available by virtue of its Bowens mount, and intend to shoot on location at dawn, dusk, earlier or later, for a little bit of time, the built-in but removable battery of the BL10 TD makes it an interesting option worth checking out. Aputure doesn't have this exact combination of attributes, and its prices start $100 higher. Just be prepared to work some audio magic in post, and remember that remote control is not an option, although if you're shooting outdoors, you're going to be working magic anyway, or going to be really unhappy. If you want most of that in an even smaller, lighter package, don't need a built-in battery, though external battery power is an option with it, as is remote control, and are very budget constrained, the Generac 750 is particularly attractive at $250, though again, you'll have to work some audio magic in post. And if you want the most robust, quietest, color accurate, and well-designed of the 3, with wireless remote control standard, which, by the way, allows you to control multiple units on multiple channels with that single unit, Cine battery power with the mount already included, and the one with which I've had the most experience and never a failure. The Aputures may really work best for you, even if their single chip onboard lights don't yet offer bicolor tunability. If you want something more, well, hold that thought. Part 3 coming. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation in the comment section below. You guys are just so sharp and so generous. Just wow. Share, create a playlist, consider supporting our work by using our no-cost-to-you affiliate links down below, or making a contribution directly via the PayPal link down below. As always, we thank you for it. For 3 blind men and an elephant, I'm Brownstone. See you next time.